Hey guys, Zane from the Infinite Jukebox here with another album review, and today I wanted to talk about the new Water From Your Eyes record, Everyone's Crushed. Despite the fact that Water From Your Eyes is a duo with quite a large discography of 5 EPs and 6 full-length studio albums, despite only having formed in 2016, the two-piece artsy synth-pop project that is Water From Your Eyes, comprised of Rachel Brown as well as Nate Amos, has yet to put out an album that I would genuinely call great. While both halves of Water From Your Eyes may be talented in their own respective ways, the duo as a actual creative power have yet to really put out an album that manages to stand out in the ever-developing landscape that is indie music at the moment. Sometimes their albums lack cohesion, sometimes their albums are just filled to the brim with weak content, and sometimes their albums are on the verge of being great but just lack something or other that really manages to hold them back in some way. My point is that Water From Your Eyes is the kind of project that could put out a phenomenal record, just they haven't yet. Do I think that Rachel Brown as well as Nate Amos might put out some great work in the future? Yes, absolutely. I think that Water From Your Eyes is a name to keep an eye on, no matter what you think of them in their present state. That being said, Everyone's Crushed, the latest studio album from the duo, is alright at times and weak in its worst moments. It manages to shine in a few select ways, and for the most part is representative of everything that is holding Water From Your Eyes back from being a significantly better project. It should be noted that before I get into the realm of criticisms that I'm going to eventually give this album, I would like to point out that this record, this project, can at least lay legitimate claim to one thing: a very great leader in the form of Rachel Brown. Their vocal work may not be very easy to depict as unique in any way, especially considering there are many vocalists within the realm of alternative music at this point that are very dead set on delivering a very deadpan or deadpan adjacent style, but their vocal style fits the record nonetheless, and one could even argue that their vocal work on tracks like True Life are some of the only praiseworthy moments on the entirety of this album. Again, I'm not saying the record as a whole is horrible, but really, Brown's vocal work is the only thing that truly stands out, and that's an occasional thing at best. Nonetheless, Brown is still a very strong leader for this project, and generally speaking, I think that they are capable of great things as a performer. Water From Your Eyes is a project that is somewhat chaotic at times and also a bit abstract, but nonetheless manages to be very lackadaisical in nature, and as such, Brown's vocal style does suit that tone quite beautifully, actually, with the semi-humorous lyrics that are sprinkled throughout this entire record's tracklist being something that Brown manages to do personally. There's a lot of ways that they feel like they are directly injecting themselves into this record, even if a lot of the lyricism here isn't necessarily the most relatable thing in the world, and in a way that may very well be the intention. A lot of this record's lyrical content is mixed with the musical content to create something a bit more paranoid or shifty in the energetic moments, and something a bit more isolated in the more laid-back and down-tempo moments. And Brown's vocal style is perfect primarily for those energetic moments. That being said, the moments where they step away from purposefully impassive vocal work to take on more emotively present work, it just doesn't work out nearly as successfully in my eyes. Cuts of this nature, such as Barley and 14, aren't bad or even weak per se, they're just fairly mediocre. It's obvious that Brown's trying to, again, create a very emotive presence for themselves throughout the entirety of these tracks, but it just doesn't feel as convincing or as believable, generally speaking. I mean, they may have genuinely tried to do something quite powerful in terms of their ability vocally on this record, on those songs, but ironically, it just doesn't match up emotionally to the more straight-faced deadpan vocals found on other tracks. And while that obviously wasn't the intention of the record, considering the deadpan moments are meant to be deadpan, the emotional moments are meant to be emotional, it really does feel like the only times where this record is really successful, for Brown at least, as a leader of Water From Your Eyes, is in the moments where they take a step back and just deliver things in an extremely casual yet intentional manner. On the other end of the spectrum, there is Nate Amos, the other half of Water From Your Eyes, and an individual whose presence is underwhelming here to a shocking degree nearly. Despite the fact that as the second member of this project, he takes on the roles of instrumentation and production related qualities of the record, he feels virtually invisible throughout the entire record's runtime, despite the fact that he is just as much a part of this project as Rachel Brown is. Now, one could certainly make the argument that this is the purpose of his role in Water From Your Eyes, and that he's meant to be heard and not seen in any way. He's meant to be this sort of invisible figure while Rachel Brown leads the herd, if you will. But ultimately, that may be true. It's still not an excuse for the simple fact that his contributions to this record feel entirely inessential, despite the fact that a lot of the groundwork being laid here musically is from him. I mean, as someone who's providing the vast majority of the instrumental work, production work here, one of the biggest things that one has to ask themselves when considering his abilities, in the context of a singular record at least, is, would this be any different if quite literally anybody else took his place, filled his shoes, did the same exact work that he was doing, but with their own style? And the truth is, no, he kind of just doesn't do anything remotely unique, and it's a shame, because considering the position that he is in, Nate Amos could have done amazing, distinct, powerful things with both production and instrumentation here, but neither of those things occur. In a relatively short runtime, this entire record manages to span a variety of genres ranging from dance punk to indie pop music, genres that are somewhat related to each other, but different enough that they feel unique in the context of a tracklist from song to song. But the truth is that the instrumentation that Amos provides causes each of these songs to feel run-of-the-mill in their own separate ways by working around the most common tropes of these different songs. And by that, I don't mean working around in the way of working around them. I mean working around as in those are the base of the different songs here. Every dance punk song, every indie pop song, every single different influence found here feels like the most base root form of those influences. I mean, for example, the dance punk songs here try to sound dry with somewhat anxious sounding instrumentals and vocal deliveries here, which are strong nonetheless, as stated before from Brown, but I digress. The indie pop songs here are meant to be dramatic and atmospheric. The noise rock adjacent songs here are definitely noisy, but the truth is that all of these different genres that Water From Your Eyes takes up throughout the entirety of Everyone's Crushed, they just feel stereotypical, for lack of a better term. They just feel like the most basic versions of these sounds that could have been expanded into something so much greater, but never faced development in any way. And this is arguably in large part due to the fact that Nate Amos's instrumentals fall flat. They feel weak and they feel inconsequential in terms of the uniqueness that they have in the respective landscapes of the different genres that they explore. And his production is very much so equal to that. He really doesn't do anything particularly stand out as a producer, and the auditory-based qualities here are not particularly impressive. They're fine, no doubt, but they don't really do anything to, again, stand out in any way. Look, Nate Amos is obviously a very talented man with a knack to explore a variety of genres while still maintaining a sense of fluidity in regards to the soundscapes that he manages to build from song to song, but that being said, his contributions to Water From Your Eyes just feel shallow. They feel like the most spineless forms of what these different sounds could be, especially in the context of a band trying to do something experimental to varying degrees from song to song. I'm not trying to hate on the man by any means, but it really does feel disappointing to hear him provide what feels like something that anyone could have provided. He just doesn't come across as a remotely unique behind-the-scenes voice here at all. And the most frustrating part is that the few times where Everyone's Crushed actually does begin to get a touch experimental, if you will, it just feels forced, and I hate to say it, but a bit cringe-inducing at times. Due to the brief 31-ish minute long runtime that is featured on this record, these try-hard adjacent moments are few and far between, admittedly, but nonetheless, they are common enough to drag the record down all the more. For example, there is a major focus on the dissonant guitar work and somewhat droning nature of the title track that is found throughout the entirety of that song. It's something that obviously is meant to draw attention from the listener to Everyone's Crushed. It's something that is very much so meant to attract people who want something dissonant, something weird, something odd, left field, call it what you will, but that's where the issue lies. It's something that wants to draw those people in rather than just being something that Water From Your Eyes did naturally. It's moments like these that are meant to demonstrate just how vicious and violent Brown and Amos are willing to get artistically, but their unwillingness to really take these moments to their most devastating and powerful distances ultimately results in Everyone's Crushed feeling more like music made by people who want other people to hear noisy music than it does people who actually want to make noisy music. And although it feels in nature like there's not that much difference there, there absolutely is in regards to what the final product is. Everyone's Crushed will certainly appeal to some more than others, and while you can say that about any album, it's especially true here. I mean, between the relatively brief runtime and the sort of dry wit that Water From Your Eyes partakes in, it's no secret that you'll find this either incredibly obnoxious or extremely endearing, depending on what kind of person that you are. I digress. Everyone's Crushed feels like it should be worthy of being mentioned alongside albums like Cave World by the Viagra Boys or New Long Leg by Dry Cleaning, as punk albums from the past couple of years that are excellent, with a very powerful sense of self-awareness that in some degree manages to define the artist and record as a whole. This album feels like it should be worthy of being listed alongside those. As a concept, it is phenomenal. Unfortunately, Rachel Brown and Nate Amos' latest effort just falls flat most of the time in the vast majority of the aspects that it manages to contain. The production is mediocre, the instrumentation feels shallow, and even the vocal work from Rachel Brown is solid, but not enough to really help recontextualize or redefine this entire record. Because the truth is that this has no impact in the current alternative music landscape, and while an album does not need to be world-changing to really make any sort of major amount of quality within the context of its own track list, an album like this feels like it should be a little more striking, and it just truly isn't. I think that Brown and Amos are capable of great things. In fact, I think they have done great things in the past from the Water From Your Eyes project alone. But this is just not one of those great things, tragically, and as such, I can't say that I recommend this unless you truly feel the need to hear every single noisy, noise rock adjacent project that comes out in any given year. If that's your thing, then, I mean, go for it, Tiger, but ultimately, I can't really recommend this to anybody else. I'm going to give this record 2.5 stars out of 5. And with that being said, that is the end of this album review. I've been Zane from the Infinite Jukebox. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.